Um, I woke up early. I have two little kids, and they wake up around 5, sometimes earlier. Um, and we had some challah that I made, and my son wanted cream cheese, and I had margarine, and then he wanted the margarine. Um, so I had the cream cheese, and then I went to the dentist, and that was nice, to get a little break, and now I'm here.
Calling the dentist a nice break is definitely a first. Um, Thank you. So I want to start us off with your book, The Bintel Brief. Can you share a few pages from that, and then we'll talk about it a little?
Yeah, let's see if I remember how to do this. File. I can do this. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. No, view.
Yeah, but you need to share first. So share
Okay, thank
screen.
you. Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Share, view.
So I think we're seeing the other file right now, not the Bintel Brief, or we are.
I think you're seeing Bintel Brief. Do you
Yes.
see Bintel Brief? Okay,
Perfect.
this is the cover of Bintel Brief. It was my first book, and I'll tell you a little bit about the cover, but first I'll tell you a little bit about the book. So maybe some of you know that Bintel Brief was this astonishing popular advice column that was in the Forward newspaper, um, from the early 1900s through the 60s, I think, maybe a little bit later, but it started out as these immigrant stories, people writing into this Yiddish, kind of socialist newspaper about their struggles coming to America and New York. And then it gradually became things written by the lingering Yiddish speakers in America. So it was more wistful and a little less urgent. And then it ended because people stopped needing a Yiddish newspaper and needing a specific kind of advice. Um, so this book takes, I think, I forget how many, I think 12 of the original Bintel brief letters, and some of them I found in a collection that had already been translated into English. That's wonderful, edited by Isaac Metzger. Um, and some of them I found in microfilm and had translated. And I illustrated each of them in a different style. I was still a young cartoonist, and I was trying to find my own style, and this was a good reason to experiment. And one thing I want to say about the cover is it's very influenced by a children's book called Tell Me a Mitzi. That's by Laurie Siegel, who died last year, who's an incredible writer. And it was illustrated by Harriet Pincus, and the cover was also um, like a tenement building and with different colored windows. Actually, I think it was a lot of buildings, that one, but I was thinking of that when I made this cover. So here goes. I'm going to read to you a few pages from one of the stories. Uh-oh. Here. Can you all see this? Is it blocked by windows? Okay. So that's the Statue of Liberty saying traitor. Um, Gosh, I haven't read this in like a decade. So let's see if I can manage to like it. The night of the pogrom, I was reading outside, so I saw them coming. I ran without knowing what I was doing. That's how I escaped alone. Um, I think, yeah, I remember this letter was written by a guy named Yechiel Schlachberg, and he was the only person in his family to come to America, and it's this agonizing letter. And I tried to illustrate it to look a little bit like a woodcut, I can't pronounce her name, like a Keitha Kollwitz woodcut or something. So he escaped. Oh, he had been outside of his house when the pogrom happened. He escaped alone. I never saw my family again. And it's this letter that's about guilt. So I have the Statue of Liberty saying, I'm talking to you, Yechiel Schlachberg. I can't stop thinking about my father. My sisters tell me he lay unconscious for 4 days. They tended to his wound. He awoke in the middle of the fourth night. Crazed with grief and fever, he wandered off. I know my father better than anyone. I know what he thinks about on a clear night. He recalls the passage in the Torah where God tells Abraham he will have as many descendants as there are stars in the sky. My father still believes this. That is the real miracle. And then I can't believe I used this image. This image is not from Brooklyn. You know what? It's from Ohio. The image is from Ohio. The letter was set in Ohio, and my editor insisted that I have all the letters set in Brooklyn. So I kept the image, and that's why it looks like Ohio. I think it was Ohio. It was somewhere like that. Brooklyn, New York, 1906. Nobody here seems aware of the betrayed shtetl ghosts that follow me around, whispering that this is not my place, that at any moment America will fall away and I'll be home again. So I don't have any more to read, but the crux of this letter was that he has saved a bit of money and he can either use the money to bring his sisters here or to set them back up in was it Poland where he comes from? And the thing he's agonizing over is that his father is too old to be able to make it over here and thrive. And he knows his father needs to stay back there. And he's trying to decide whether to let his sisters start this new life or set them up back home so they can take care of their father together. And he's just in terrible agony, and he feels this terrible guilt to be the one guy who got away while his family is suffering. And it was a haunting letter. And most of the letters a bunch of them I illustrated. I stuck very closely to the text. And this one I departed because it was so over the top in the first place. It felt right. And that was fun. It always feels irresponsible to really depart from a text, but if you feel able to, it's more fun. So I will stop sharing now.
So you mentioned, Liana, that this was when you were a young cartoonist. I'm not sure Yiddish letters from the beginning of the 20th century is a clear path for, like, what drew you to them? How did you find yourself working with those?
It was random. So I grew up involved and observant and very involved, very much part of a Jewish community in New York, but I never fit in, and I always thought of art as like an alternate path for me that was really not connected to my Jewishness or my heritage and culture, my Ashkenaziness. I don't know. Um, and so I went to art college. After art college, I went off to Belgium for a year on a fellowship and was working on a book. And I liked applying for grants. So I found a grant that sounded really good called the 6 Points Fellowship, and it called for a Jewish project. And I'm like, I'm not someone who often starts with a project. I just like to work. I think I'm kind of lacking vision when it comes to like wanting to work on anything specific. I just like to draw. So it wasn't like I had another project to work on, but that was the impetus for me to look for a Jewish project. And I asked my parents, and I had never heard of Bintel Brief, and they suggested it. And they brought my grandma's copy of the collection of letters edited by Isaac Metzger to me. They found it at my grandma and grandpa's house apartment. And I fell in love. And it was it was genuine. It was like this realization that I really did fit in my culture. Like these people were all adventurous, lonely outsiders, and real had these like dramatic stories, and they were secular. Like the Forward is such a secular newspaper, so I came from a relatively like observance-based upbringing, and that was part of why I never fit in. I'm not really a shul person, partly because I'm so shy. I don't like to be only because I'm so shy. I don't like to be in a big room full of people. And here were these letters from people who were like working on Shabbat and like not part of a community and who are still so Jewish. And I studied Yiddish a little bit, and I just really vibed with these letter writers and with the Forward newspaper and with the Forward's like kind of um, not totally nice editor, Abraham Kahan, dictator, I wanted to say, but oh, I loved him. He was also a novelist. So this was really a fun book to get to write, and it was the first book I ever wrote that came together. I still have trouble cohering a story, and this one just seemed to want to cohere.
And so did this change what you said, the split between your identity as an artist and identity as a Jewish person? Did these things kind of find a way, or are they still separate for you?
It helped. I still feel some agony. I still don't belong so much to a community. Um, but I found a lot of other Jewish people who don't belong to a community, so it's less separate than it was. I still would love to be able to be a shul person. Um, don't consider that an invitation. I'm very hard to bring into a shul, but yeah, I found that like a way to engage with my Jewishness is through making art since then, and I do dip back in often.
We'll talk about that shortly. I do want to ask if I mean, you chose one letter from the book, so I'm assuming that stayed with you. Is there another letter that you read or a piece of that book, a story in that book that is special to you?
Yeah. Another one, I think the one that was the most departure from the actual letter was a letter about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. And it felt made up. It was so dramatic, and it might have been made up. Some of them were written by the editor. Um, but I guess something very boring that I'll say I really enjoyed about working on that one is that I drew it in ballpoint pen. And that was kind of a revelation to me that like I could work in just a day-to-day material because I went to art school, but I didn't study comics, and they were very far from what we were supposed to do at art school. And I always thought of like official art as something you had to do with official materials, and those never came naturally to me.
So you spoke a little bit about your childhood, and I'll ask maybe some more. First of all, if you can say a bit of, did drawing and storytelling appear in your earlier childhood or teens? Like when did it become part of your life, or what role did it play?
I've been drawing since I was a baby. The background is that my dad is a doctor, and he has a practice far enough from the city that it's hard to, from New York City, that it's hard to commute. And my mom had been an architect working in New York City. And they met while she was taking a break from work because she hurt her back doing architecture. Um, Back then, not anymore, but back then architects would like lean over. I'm on a drafting table right now, which is, I just like don't understand why anyone would use a slanted table because things roll off of it. But like architects used to lean over these slanted tables and um, hurt their backs because they were just like leaning and drawing for like 15-hour stretches. So she was in bed. She was set up on a blind date with this dreamy doctor in Orange County, New York. And she ended up moving out to Orange County with dreams of starting her own architecture practice, but it was not a neighborhood where people wanted architecture, it turned out. Um, so she became a fine artist, and I grew up in this kind of like isolated hothouse of drawing and art, kind of unconnected from a community of other artists. So my mom was my mentor, and I started drawing when I was a baby and very early. And um, been drawing ever since. I was a super shy kid, and it was very connected that drawing was my outlet. I don't think I learned how to have a conversation until my 20s.
So if you had to draw a line that describes your life, what type of line would it be?
Whoa. Um, I want to. I want to draw it. I'm trying to think. I often divide, yeah, I think I divide my life into areas and they feel pretty disconnected from each other. So childhood was idyllic, very not social, and it was fine. I drew, I collected rocks. My family was everything I needed socially. I loved dogs. Then I got lonely and I got weird and I had writer's block and I had an eating disorder. Um, and I think school was really not good for me. I just do not belong in a group. It was very, very hard to spend all day in these groups of people. I would get a migraine every day in high school and college. And then released from college, I kind of found my way back and I graduated into 2008 economic downturn and I couldn't get a job, which I maybe wouldn't have been able to anyway, because I used to cry in job interviews. So in a way that was nice for me and freeing because I was anticipating being the only person who couldn't get a job. And instead I was one of many people who couldn't get a job. So I got grants and I freelanced and eventually I stopped looking for a job because I was doing okay and it really suited me and it was really lovely. And then I became like an internet person. I posted a lot on Instagram. I got a big audience on there. Then then like quieter moment. Yeah, and I like kind of made my career out of my anxiety and fear of people. I would do a lot of drawings about how hard it is to like walk on the street or sit in a cafe. Yeah, and then pandemic, quieter, I had kids, and I'm in a new phase and I don't really know what it is yet, but I hope it involves a lot of working on books. I love doing that.
So maybe I'll say for a moment that I first encountered your work when I was listening to TED Radio Hour podcast about awkwardness. But what drew my ears in, and immediately I was thinking of CSP, was because of the way you spoke about your Jewish identity within a context that is completely different and was very beautiful. And you also mentioned there, I think, let there be light. So can you share a few pages from that book and then we'll talk about it?
Yeah. So let me experiment with sharing my screen again. And this is a different file type. Let's see what I can do. Okay. Do you all you see my screen, but not the right way, right? So
We're
now maybe
seeing the screen and all the next pages, but I think I think it's okay. Ah, here, now we're seeing full screen. Perfect.
okay. So you know what? I don't, okay, wait. Don't
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 go.
know that I'm wearing shorts, if you can see that. I just wanted to show you the cover. This is, I'm gonna unshare for a minute. Okay, this is very fittingly in a big beam of light. This is a Spanish version, but this is the cover. Um, Trying to get it out of the light.
Yes.
This is the carrot. So Let There Be Light is an adaptation of the book of Genesis. And I made it with this shy female god, and I made her kind of like a childlike kind of fairy creature, which is a god that I could understand, both because I understand why she would want to create things and because I would understand better why she's imperfect. And I would understand her because she's like me, and I do not understand the bearded God. And I think another part of why I never quite took to organized religion is that I'm a woman and it wasn't made for me. Like these stories are wonderful, but they don't explain things to me and they don't explain why I am here. And so I want it, but I just like adore the text. So I adore it the way I mean, I'm a very secular person, I think. So I adore it the way I love like Greek myths or something. So I wanted to remake it the way I would make it. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to engage with it. All right. So here are a few pages from the story of Noah.
So you'll need to reshare.
Yeah, I'm sharing. One second. Sorry, this is not. I'm so sorry. Okay, one second. Let me see if I could. Got it. You get the whole screen? Okay.
Yeah.
God loved Noah. And here's a picture of, and you'll also see like how my images are telling the story a little bit more than they did in the earlier work. And that's always what I'm striving for. So God loved Noah, and here she is gently placing him on the ground. She loved him at a time when she hated everything else, including herself. She didn't want to destroy the world, and here she is like about to erupt in tears. She simply couldn't help herself, and here she is heaving. But by the time the rains came, by which I mean she starts spewing tears, Noah, his family, and the animals were all safe on board the ark. God's love of her creations had eroded imperceptibly over time. There had been the episode with the tree of knowledge and the terrible murder of Abel by Cain, but it wasn't until now that the misery poured out of her in all its brutal force. In other ways, though, she was profoundly happy. The way she felt about Noah, it was a new way to feel. So that's 3 pages. I don't know. I was afraid to even try to choose 3 pages that would make sense on their own, but yeah.
So can you say a little about like how long did this project take you? Did you go like did you draw according to the book of Genesis in order, or did you pick and choose stories? How did you pick? Like give us some of the insight into this.
I drew in order. I started from the beginning, and then I very painstakingly just slashed whole chunks that didn't make sense to me. And then other chunks I worked with and worked with until they started to make sense. Like Abraham ended up being modeled after like I don't even know the way to sum this up, but like an art, like a worshipped genius artist from the 1950s, like let's say Rothko or something. So I wrote that in the form of like an artist biography about this single-minded man. And I drew it in the way that made sense to me. I drew it kind of in pencil in a way that felt a little more academic, and that was really fun and made me laugh in an obscure way. Um, Noah came really easily. It's a much shorter story, and I think it's a story that everyone knows and that made just makes sense. Like I kept encountering things in the book of Genesis that I forgot were in there and that I realized no one has read and that I would have to present to people. So I think when I first started working on this project, I thought it would be really easy. I was like, oh, everyone knows the book of Genesis. I just get to tell a story everyone knows and kind of make fun of it. But it turns out it's as weird as anything that ancient is. I'll also say that like I started this project with I think a 2 page spread that was in the Forward newspaper, which is a newer English iteration of the old Yiddish Forward, and it's very good. And then it also was included in a memoir, a graphic memoir fiction-y book I wrote called Passing for Human, that was about being a woman and an artist. And it was about my mom kind of fictionalized and about me kind of fictionalized. And it's interspersed with these stories of a female god. So that's where this character originated. And my editor asked if I would do a full book of this character.
And what were the type of responses you received, especially coming from an Orthodox community? If you can share some of the responses that people had to this book.
I don't come from an Orthodox community. I come from a conservative community. So the people, my parents were both raised, my mom was raised Orthodox and my dad was raised conservative at a time when that was basically Orthodox. But yeah, it's trickled down. Um, yeah, the responses were mostly from kind of idealistic, intellectual young hippie Jews, and it was very positive, and that made me really happy. I think what I was expecting more was just like shock from like Christians or something, or more religious people, but those people didn't read the book.
What were some of the kind of, because there's time has passed since, I think it's like what, 8 years now since the book came out.
Oh my
Um,
God. I
uh,
don't think so,
no,
but possibly. When did this come out? I think it came out in 2021
okay.
or
So, so
2022
I'm
in history.
assuming you know better when the book came
I
out.
don't. Yeah.
But it's been a few years. Were there kind of, did it go places that surprised you? We now see that it was translated since, like,
That was so
what?
nice. Yeah. I'm so like I was so spoiled by Instagram that like when like one random person reads your work on Instagram, you feel so applauded. Books are much less face to face, so or whatever, much less like synchronous. Um, so I have no like I definitely feel like it all my books vanish, but this book, um I got some really nice feedback, and I left feeling pretty good about it. I won a couple of Jewish awards and um, got some really, really lovely reviews that I felt like really understood the book.
And
And yeah, no, tell me.
can you say something about your kind of thoughts around humor, faith, and doubt? Because that seems to like be woven into your works, and I'm wondering if like what your thoughts are about that.
Um, Faith I don't have. Faith in art I have. I find it very, very hard to take in art in the time of the internet. And I also find it very hard to take in art when you are making art and especially when you're busy making art. Probably when you're busy in general. But like, I think all those three things are combined for me. So in my tough times, in my teens and 20s, I was a compulsive reader, and I would walk around with this backpack with like 20 books in it and just like mainlining them. I would never finish a book, but I needed to like read five at a time on the table in front of me. I don't know why. Um, and I felt holy, like it felt religious. I liked poetry. And I think that was weird and not relatable. But I miss it. And I miss feeling that strongly about art and books. Um, And I think when I work on stuff, I'm always trying to approach that feeling of holiness. So I guess working on things has replaced the feeling of reading things. Humor, I also have a weird relationship with. I think I'm an honest person I'm not a light person, as maybe you can tell. I'm an honest person. I find absurdity. So that's a kind of humor. I wish I had more lightness, and I hope I get more as I get older because like it. I like it in other people's work. It's my favorite thing. And I'm a cartoonist, and we're supposed to be funny. Um, but yeah, in this book, one of the tasks I set out for myself was to let myself be funny. And I think I was, and I really enjoyed it. I'd been working on a screenplay at the same time, and I think that kind of filtered into the work on this book.
So you showed us a few things and you spoke about your style, especially in the Bintel brief, choosing different styles. Do you have a style of drawing or do you shift depending on the content and kind of if you can, how did that evolve with your career?
I don't have a style, but I have a style that I've chosen as my style. And I work in a very small pen, a very thin pen, and I often blow up my drawings so that they're bigger and they look like they're in a big confident pen. but I think of it as like singing in a very quiet voice when you have a lot more range of emotion um, in exchange for much less like range in general. Like you're very limited when it comes to complexity and color and just all these various things. So that was the style I used most often because I did it. I made my Instagram drawings in that style and I made maybe 10 or 20 every day. Um, at this time in my life, when I sit at a desk instead of wandering from cafe to cafe, and I'm working like very much on a childcare schedule, um, that style feels much less relevant. That was like a style of a single person who worked nonstop and never sat still. So I'm kind of finding some new styles, and I've always in my books I've always alternated between styles because I think it's really important to work in a style that reflects the story.
And can you say something about the choice of color, black and white? Because that's also something that is shifts between your projects. But I see less color and more black and white. So
I
yeah.
always just work in black and white. I'm just starting to experiment with color, and part of why I never did before is that there's so much technical stuff to deal with, like from the scanner in my house, well, from the markers that I buy or the paint that I buy to the scanner in my house to the way things are printed overseas or wherever they're printed. Like I have so little control. And I'm not very good at like troubleshooting technical stuff, so I've just avoided it. Um, and I also like, I used to have hangups about graphic novels being books rather than art. So it was really important to me that my drawings were as simple as possible and that didn't involve color. I often use spot color, but I don't think of that as color, where there's just like a little bit of one color distributed throughout the book. I chose red for this book because it felt nicely symbolic. There are a lot of red things in the book of Genesis, mostly blood.
So,
Apple.
and then you say you're not funny. Okay, we'll do some short ones. Your favorite bookstore?
Sorry. Just thinking.
Well,
There's
I
one called
hear you.
Lofty Pigeon in my neighborhood that I really love.
Lofty Pigeon. We send all of these, right, to people so they can go visit your favorite bookstore. Do you have a favorite color?
No.
A favorite lunch spot?
Like to eat out.
Mhm.
Um, I've been eating pizza lately. I've been pregnant a lot lately.
Um, a favorite fictional character?
Oh yeah, Sebastian Knight by Vladimir Nabokov. I adore him.
Can you say why?
Um, I adore the writer and I like the character because he is, um I think I'm neurodivergent and I love to read partly because I think a lot of people who have slightly different ways of thinking um are free to write about their ways of thinking in their work. That's one of the reasons I like to read. And this character is I relate to so much. I think he's got a bit of Asperger's or something.
Do you have a most hated fictional character?
Ooh, I'm thinking. Sorry.
Don't apologize. I'm springing these questions on. I don't know if I could answer that one, but the most loved came very quickly, quicker than the
Yeah,
lunch spot.
I love a lot of them, but that's kind of a knee-jerk one that I know to provide. What ones I hate, I mean, like I love hate a lot of chick lit, and a lot of those characters feel kind of like they're hiding things from themselves. They're not so honest. So I guess some of those I really like Bridget Jones, but I can't remember the ones I hate.
Okay. Moving into something a little less light. So on the kind of spectrum between personal and political, where would you place your work?
personal, and it's changed so much lately. I feel like it was so accepted to be feminist for a little while, and that was an area I felt very comfortable being. And so I felt political back when feminism felt political. Um, Now I feel like I'm in this agonized position as a left-wing Zionist Jew, who like totally opposed all the stuff going on in Gaza, but not as much as my friends over here who aren't Jewish and don't understand that you can want Israel to exist with while being left wing and opposing the war. So I felt like just agonized, grieving, silent, and it's been an interesting place to be that I'm finding as I heal enough to like talk about it to people that a lot of people are in the same place. But yeah, I think that's why I feel so not political lately. I don't feel like I want to be seen as political because my politics wouldn't be popular. And I'm saying that most people I know are on the left, and I feel more afraid of what being seen as not left wing enough, honestly, which is a very niche place to be. I think a lot of people are more afraid of being seen as too left wing,
Can
and
you
I am very left wing. I'm not like, yeah, my fear is weird and displaced.
Can you share maybe where you met this? Like, did it come up in specific situations where you realized this?
Oh, it's everywhere. I don't know. I had a fellowship in Berlin on October 7th, and nobody mentioned what had happened. Like almost no one talked about it. And that was like a punch in the gut. It was terrifying. Um, and those like left-wing Americans. And yeah, that's what it's felt like.
And you mentioned you've started maybe to talk about it a little. Can you share something about that?
Um, I feel, well, yeah, I guess like with Trump being elected, I feel a little less, I feel more solidarity with other people on the left in the US. Um, because I feel like our closest, the thing that I'm most afraid of is Trump right now. And I can forget that that I don't see eye to eye with the left in a lot of ways on Israel. So weirdly, like like I teach at Barnard College, and the protests at Columbia made me uncomfortable, though I also would have liked to protest the war. But so I couldn't tell people that the protests made me uncomfortable because it's like too nuanced a view. I would have been seen as conservative if I said that. Um, but I so much oppose like this guy being deported or arrested that what was it? Mohammed Khalil. Yeah. That I just felt like total solidarity with the left for a minute. And I don't know, it's really complicated.
And is that something that you find that comes into your art, like not being published maybe, but into your art, or is it just completely on the side?
Um, it's making me more internal, and it's feeding into the fact that I'm not on Instagram much anymore. I I don't feel I don't like to open the app and see people. Um, I don't want to see people's views.
So we're going to jump into something with an appropriate title, but a different slant to your book, Mixed Feelings. Can you share a couple or a few pages from that with us, and then we'll talk about that book?
Yes. Let me share. I hope I haven't been sharing all this time, right?
No, you haven't. You're doing really well with the technology.
Great. Okay. Sorry. Okay, no,
I think just the full screen mode.
screen mode.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm gonna scroll a bit. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I don't have a good, um, I don't
It's
have a good
without
thing
the
to show
text.
you. Yeah. 1 second. I want to see if I have a copy of it over here. No, I don't think so. Let me try to find another one. I'm sorry.
No worries. I think I have, you know what we'll do? I have a YouTube of a kid reading your book. Can I show a bit of
Oh,
that?
lovely. Yeah, thank you.
So I'll stop your sharing,
Okay.
okay? And let me share mine. Let's do this. Skip. And I'll put it full screen in a moment once it starts. I don't know why it's going so slow.
Hi, my name is Bella, and today we're going to read Mixed Feelings, Liana Finck, by Liana Finck. How do I feel? Mostly happy, but a little sad. Shy and not sure why. Just in the mood to pretend to be a horse. Like no one ever listens to me. How do I feel? Like I miss home? Not much, but wait, what's that? Like I'm stuck inside, but getting cozy? Like there are so many things to do, but none of them is what I want to do. How do I feel? Not tired.
I can share. I found mine.
You found it.
Forgotten about.
Okay, one moment. Let's do it.
Okay, ready? That was cool.
Like the whole entire world
Huh?
is a
Okay, sorry, I had a little technology glitch of my own. So you found it. How did
I
it
found it.
feel
Yeah.
to see that YouTube? I don't know if you know it exists.
I didn't see it. I don't know if anyone saw it. I heard it. I liked it.
Oh, you didn't see the images.
That's why I interrupted. Did anyone else see it?
I don't know.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I shouldn't have interrupted. Then
No,
that
no,
was okay.
it's good. Let's maybe choose a few, and while you're showing us, if you can say something about kind of what inspired this book.
Okay. Oops. Okay. So I'm not sharing the cover. I don't feel great about the cover anyway, but it's a book of it's a book for children about the feelings that we don't have words for. And I think the point of the book is to show people that feelings aren't obvious and that when we're feeling something, we need to kind of like think about what it is and where it comes from, and that naming it, even if the name is very complex, gives us a lot of power to be larger than it and to be friends with it. So this is an illustration of mostly happy, but a little sad. So this character who's waving to his dog is mostly happy that he gets to go to the beach and a little sad that he's leaving his dog at home. This character was the one I related to the most in this book, shy and not sure why. And there's a lot to say there. I still have no idea why I used to be so shy. I think probably, honestly, she's probably overwhelmed by like noises and things. I think it's like so simple. Um, just in the mood to pretend to be a horse. And I will say that I got expelled from nursery school for pretending to be a dog all the time because that was how I was coping with feeling very uncomfortable. And then one more, like no one ever listens to me. And for some of these, I was watching my son and trying to notice what he's feeling. So this is one was coming from him. And that is it.
Thank you. So, have you ever considered of doing an adult version of Mixed Feelings?
Yeah, I wanted to. I was like, I don't know why I need permission, but I always think that my editors are my bosses. But I remember asking my editor if I could try to pitch op-eds to newspapers that were like adult versions of this, and she was like, I don't know. And then I didn't bother.
Okay, I would love an adult version. Do you have like in your mind, if you would do an adult version, do you have like a place it would start with or one of the images?
I think, yeah, I mean, I'm so bad at this, and that's why I try to do it all the time. It like understand what I'm feeling and why I just often feel like completely incapacitated by like realizing that I have a dentist appointment too close to um something else that I'm supposed to do, for example. Not today. Um, but and it'll just like make me unable to speak, and then I'll be like, wait, why am I not able to speak? And I just won't know why, but I'm actually just worrying about whether I need to call the dentist or something. Is that normal?
I would place a question of what's normal. Like, I think normal is a spectrum. So I don't know. I think we all have anxiety over stuff. It just depends, I think, the level. And at the end of
Yeah.
the day, I think it's about, do we function with it? And it seems you do, since, you know, your life is happening and pretty well.
Yeah.
So another question, if you had to kind of give titles to different parts of your identity, because you spoke about your identity as a shy person or neurodivergent, as a woman with a feminism, as the artist, as a Jewish person, would you add anything else into that mix?
I would add my age, and I would add my generation, like the time we're living in. I think we're all so affected by technology right now and various things.
And do you feel they all play a similar kind of size of role, or do some have a larger part on the stage?
Um, I don't know. Yeah, I think like the being female is really interesting. I just like noticed that I think I'm past the moment when it is so major, and then I'm not. And then like it's again like a big wallop. Um, so now I'm dealing with like being the parent of little kids, and my life is wildly affected by that in a way that's wonderful, but also isn't fair. And I'm sure I'll experience a lot of new surprises as I pass through life. But yeah, the neurodivergent thing like is very present sometimes and very much less present at other times, and that's really interesting.
There was a question here about if you've ever thought of creating an animation.
Yeah, I would like to. I don't do it on my own because I think there are diminishing returns. It takes like days and days and days to make one like a minute of work. And I don't have that kind of time, and no one's paying me to do that. But I love watching them.
Another question was about your influences. Like, who do you look to as people that influenced your art, your storytelling?
Thank you. Good question. I'll just reel off a few names that are all mostly New York Jewish people. Rick Hellman, Roz Chast, William Steig, Saul Steinberg, Maurice Sendak, Jules Pfeiffer.
I'm so going to have to ask you to email those to me so I can include them in the
Okay.
follow-up email, because it was
Okay.
too
Yeah.
quick for me to write down. Can you say maybe why, maybe about a couple of these, why they're your choice?
Yeah, well, a lot of these people made children's books, and I think that's a big, big influence of mine. I just love, I mean, I think like children's books are one of the main ways people combine story and pictures, and I think they're amazing. And I'm obviously reading a lot of them right now. And I also love The New Yorker, and I didn't grow up with it, but I started reading it at a really important time in my life when I was probably 12. So um, I never was a huge fan of New Yorker cartoons, though I love them. But Roz Chast was doing the back page of the New Yorker when I started getting the magazine, and or when my family started getting the magazine, and that was so important to me. She snuck in as a New Yorker cartoonist, but what she really is like an indie comics artist, like a radical. Jules Pfeiffer is another kind of indie radical comics artist, and he's undefinable, and I love his work. Although I can't tell you like which of his work is most important to me. He did some comic books, he did some kids books, he did a comic strip. Don't read his plays. And then Maurice Sendak is a kids book guy. Myra Kalman's kids books are still will always be my favorites. They're joyful, they're nonlinear, they're punk rock, they're brilliant, and they're delicious. William Steig was New Yorker and kids books, and just perfect. I think the first book I would read if I was a grown-up would be one called CDC, spelled like the letters. And it's a book of, I want to say anagrams, that's not the right word. It's like letters that symbolize words. So CGC is illustrated with someone pointing out the ocean to someone, pointing out the sea. And Saul Steinberg is my love and my God. And I don't encounter his work much anymore because he didn't make kids' books, and that's all I'm reading these days. But he made these like brilliant New Yorker covers and drawings, and he was like a philosopher. Like I say, I'm a cartoonist, so I'm supposed to be funny. You don't like there's a lot to say in cartoons that isn't necessarily jokes, although I think everything should be funny. But like he was very thoughtful and not punchliney. And he had this like elegant line that I will never be able to imitate. I don't know where that comes from.
Couple more questions before we need to sign off. One is about your relationship with your editor. Like, is it the same editor throughout time? What type of kind of relationship is that? How does it affect your process?
I have a bunch of editors. I have an editor at the New Yorker who's Emma Allen, and who took over for Bob Mankoff. And my grown-up book editor is Andy Ward at Random House, and my kids' book editor is Cecily Kaiser at Penguin Rise. I think those are the main editors now, but I love working with an editor. And the big difference I notice is when someone is a prose editor, like my grown-up editor, versus when someone always works with illustrators. And I also I like to be managed. And I think a big part of getting older is learning how to do that for myself. But it's a little tricky to ask editors about their process because I don't know it. I don't know what is rude to ask an editor, but I'm so curious about how they work. And um, I don't have answers, but like, I think my editors often let me do my own thing because my form is so specific that people don't like, no one knows better than me what to do. But my kids' book editor is really hands-on and also very, very much right a lot of the time. So it's really fun to get to work with her. I like a hands-on editor.
Two last questions. One, are there any non-American cartoonists that you kind of look at, enjoy, would recommend?
Yes. Okay. Rutu Modan,
Oh,
the
nice.
best.
That's local for me.
Yes. Yeah. Comics. And Walter Scott is Canadian. I love him. And I love like French language comics in general. I haven't read them in a long time, but just like there's just a high level of, can I say Karen Katz? She's also my friend, but she's so brilliant.
You can
Comics
basically
artist.
say whatever you want.
Yeah, Karen Katz is a comics artist and now puppeteer in Tel Aviv, and she is so brilliant.
Oh, she's amazing. I didn't recognize her name when it's like pronounced in English.
American.
Wow, I didn't know you know each other.
Yeah.
She's amazing. Ah,
Yeah, I'm really glad.
mention her. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last but not least, what is something that is currently exciting for you? What are you working on? What are you looking forward to?
Okay, well, one thing that's a tangent is that we just adopted a parakeet, and I think I might be a bird person. And not tangentially, I'm working on a book called She Devil that I'm excited about and worried about, and just hope I know how to make. But it's like a story graphic novel, and I've done like a string of kind of assignment-y graphic novels. Like I did one about the first year of parenthood. But this one really feels like a flight of fancy, and like there's just like a lot of openness, and I get to make a lot of decisions, and it was kind of what I wanted Let There Be Light to be, where it's biblical, but I'm not being held to any text. I'm just making up a story. So it's the story of the devil, and her fall. And I feel like I have a ton of freedom because I'm not Christian and I didn't grow up with a devil. But there's a lot of like the story of how she grew up in heaven and what God was really like and what her mother was like, who didn't make it into the Bible. And it feels very heretical. And I hope that it's sweet enough that no one sees it as heretical. And it's about marriage, and I'm working it out. I hope it comes together in my head, and I hope I can figure out how to make it come together in a way that other people understand too. It's fun working on a comic again.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you,
It
everyone,
was really
for being
fun.
here. And we look forward